we can make the FlexBoss more powerful and lower cost for our customers. There are a lot of battery systems going in today that'll work when they turn them on, but people aren't thinking about the long-term failure case scenarios that are going to drive truck rolls.
So let's say for a 3-battery system, then for a 3-battery system, by using the indoor battery versus the outdoor, you're saving...
That's a 2,500 kilowatt hour a month power bill that you can offset with self-consumption, not to mention peak shaving or VPP programs.
The smarter way to go solar.
Hi everyone, Joe Ordia here for Solar Surge, and today we're coming back to you from Intersolar North America, which is the big solar conference here in San Diego. And this morning I'm joined by James Showalter again. He's the founder and CEO at EG4, and we're going to be looking at the EG4 product lineup for 2025. So James, I understand that you guys have been working on a number of new products that you're going to be releasing this year. For our audience, you know, they've asked us to cover more of the EG4 products. The last video that you and I shot together got a lot of feedback saying, hey Joe, make sure you do more videos about EG4. So that's why we're here. So please walk us through what makes up the new lineup for 2025.
Yeah, well Joe, you're great question. You're in front of really I think a very common complete system that's for medium and larger homes here. And the top level view that we're going at with the Power Pro system, with the Boss system for the inverter control is our system uses DC only battery modules that have the lowest scale cost in the industry for these units. They're you know under $3,500. I mean, installers are buying around $3,000 for a 14 kilowatt hour upgrade. So a lot of people are needing 2 or 3 or 4 batteries. Our system has that scale cost down. We're very competitive in the 1-2 battery range, but we were able to go after these homes that people are losing jobs to that when they try to scale the battery system size. So we were able to go after that, and we with the GridBoss, we didn't just create a microgrid device. We created a really smart load manager with 4 smart ports, which really addresses all in one place the load shedding problem that contractors that just became battery contractors are finding out about. You know, the power of a single inverter unit is enough to where you only have to have one controller and you can deliver a 5-ton sure start just from the get-go. So we think this is a solution that is ready for 95% of homes with a single inverter, and of course the rest of them with more.
So with what we're looking at here, if I'm understanding you correctly, with what we're looking at here, you're saying you could take the typical US home off the grid or be able to run whole house backup?
Absolutely, absolutely. If you're talking about a power bill under 1,800 kilowatt hours a month, 2 batteries will do it. You know, if you have a little more, you just have to buy 1 more battery, which is super cost effective. So we're really for those 1,000 kilowatt hour a month and up homes that are in most of middle America that haven't really gotten access to a competitive solar solution.
Now, with each of the batteries, you said it's 14 kilowatt hours storage per?
Yeah,
okay, so 28 with the 2 battery setup that we're looking at here.
28.6 combined, yes.
Okay.
So and that again, that scale cost, we've got EPCs that are installing, fully installed price on a 3rd battery and then come back and add it for under $5,000, $4,500 for that. So, you know, comparing that to, you know, what we're seeing in the industry, it's got one of the best scale costs out there.
That's great. All right, let's focus on the inverter now. So It looks like the central part of the solution here is the new FlexBoss 21 inverter.
Yes.
For those that aren't as familiar with this product specifically, let's walk through all the basic functions and the basic specs. So first of all, what is the main function of this hybrid inverter, this FlexBoss 21?
Well, it's the all-in-one center of the system. So it integrates generator power, solar power, whether that's AC coupled microinverters or DC strings at 600 volts, and it outputs the backup power for a home in a backup situation, as well as ties into the grid. So the function there is a real energy independence box. We're making these now in Texas, actually, and one of the things that we were able to do was, I think, build really one of the first 5-ton air conditioner ready solutions with 190 rotor lock amps right out of the box. So this is really just the independence center of your house. The 21s are bigger unit, and it's called a 21 because it can handle up to 21 kilowatts of solar, going to multiple different outputs, whether that's batteries or AC for the house, etc.
Okay, so you up to 21 kilowatts DC input on the solar side.
Yes.
Okay, what are we looking at in terms of power output, secure backup power to the house?
Yeah, so 16 kilowatts of AC power when solar's present. When it's just batteries at night, it's about 14.5 kilowatts for 10 minutes and continuous 12 kilowatts. So we've got some good long-term surge there on the nighttime usage and a lot of extra available daytime power. So that's something that's significantly sturdier than some of the options that we're seeing. And it's kind of an all-in-one unit. We think, again, most homes, this is 90% plus case use for most homes, so it's enough power to run it.
Okay, James, well, that sounds great. Now, can we wire this for whole house backup? Does it have that 200 amp pass-through?
No, we actually had originally started EG4 with our 18 kPV, which is a 200 amp integrated inverter, and directly what we realized was that the 200 amp box is actually an approach that needs to be left behind in the industry. It's not cost effective at all.
Okay, explain that a little bit more for the audience.
Yeah, so when we actually went on job sites with our 18K installers, and they were looking at other 200 amp solutions around the industry, they were using a 200 amp manual transfer switch because you have to be able to replace the inverter without interrupting power to your customer. And then they were using a 200 amp overcurrent knife switch on the input side. And 3-aught wire and EMT conduit. And by the time that they left the wire store to do the job, they had spent $2,000 on transfer switches and disconnects and wire. And so there's a lot of money around the stuff that we were like, we can do much better with. So we released the GridBoss for a list price of $1,700 that does a lot more. And we said we could reduce the cost of the inverter and give people that we're just using this off-grid, because we're very heavily present in the off-grid community, a lower price unit, and ultimately spend the electrician's money a lot better with a completely integrated product, and they save the about $700 cost drop we were able to do on the inverter based on this change.
Great.
So it's a 90 amp transfer internally. If you're using it off-grid, you have all full available power without having to buy the GridBoss. But if you're integrating to the grid, you're going to want the GridBoss. It's less money than the transfer switches cost, and it solves like 7 other problems that you people are going to face if they try to have a 200 amp transfer switch box.
Makes a lot of sense. No, I know as a former electrician too, because you have to have all this high amperage switchgear to be able to bypass the inverter. In case the inverter fails, you have to swap it out. You need a way you can at least bypass the house back onto utility power while you do your service and while you do your repairs. And a lot of times, all that switching and the wire and conduit, it all adds up, like you said.
I ended up joking when we were doing the next generation development a couple years ago on this particular system. I ended up joking, oh shoot, you can't pay me enough to put a 200 amp box inside the inverter anymore. Like this really doesn't make sense when you pay attention to it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, what can we show the audience as far as the connections? How does it work here at the FlexBoss?
Absolutely. So inside the FlexBoss, we've got a protective cover, we got a battery breaker, and we left most all the breakers actually for the GridBoss now. So it has a load side and a grid side. So the guys who are buying just the FlexBoss for off-grid are just going to come out the load side and hook it up to their breaker panel for their off-grid installation. Okay. And then the grid connection is what actually ties back to the GridBoss. But it is going to use a number 6 or a number 4, depending on length, copper cable going back to that one breaker. We've got double battery terminals. They're parallel, so you don't need like a combiner plate. Just you can use it's 250 amp input.
And this is all 48 volt nominal?
48 volt nominal. I think it's peak of 58. And then we have the PV inputs. We've got a 25 amp, a 25 amp, and a 15 amp, and they're double inputs. So we can take about 5 strings of the new M10 style panels, 550s, 410s, that style. Got a communications stack right here, which can work with battery comms, a spare LCD. There's an optional LCD that you can buy for the unit that sticks to the inside door, and the ribbon cable connects here. This solution is for some of the off-grid guys that really want to have like a native screen. We've got a lot of professional installers that would rather keep it all headless, keep it on an app like some of the other guys, like some of the biggest ones. So we've got that solution as an option to where we're always staying connected with our off-grid base, but so they can go either direction. And really that's about it. It's a single wire connection, one run of wire to the GridBoss, a communications cable to the GridBoss, battery communications go in here, and then the 250 amp cables from the battery come straight off the battery quick connects and into the inverter. Great. So it's a system that puts itself together really easily. In the hybrid space, it used to be like all these little different components back when I was You know, a teenager doing it.
He had to piece it all together.
So this just is an easy flow. We've been able to hit the same kind of efficiency that you're seeing in the all-in-one units.
Now, James, and I know we're going to cover the GridBoss in more detail in a future video, but application for this, so this by itself could be like for an off-grid home, small off-grid home?
Absolutely. It's the absolute best value in an off-grid inverter out there. If you want a 10-year warranty unit, massive surge capacity, 16 kilowatts, just the most powerful off-grid inverter on the market, and you're paying, you know, I think retail on this is $41.99. So, you know, $4,000-ish for a, you know, a super powerful inverter. You can't hit that price point anywhere else. We're really just driven to make this stuff affordable to people. So that's our business model, is charge what we need to charge.
Now, one thing I didn't see, and maybe it's on a different model, but is there a generator hookup option if you want to be able to recharge from generator?
So we asked this question when we were developing, and we said, there was actually like an elimination process, and we said, look, if you're using it off-grid, then you're going to use the generator will go into the grid side, which is the AC input.
Okay, and so you could take AC input there.
Exactly, and we can actually boost and clean up the generator a lot more with the grid input of this inverter. Okay, and most hybrid inverters, the generator input doesn't fix the generator as much. So we said, if you're using the grid, you're going to use the GridBoss, and so you could just tie into the GridBoss's generator input. So we actually tried to go for, again, not selling people anything more than they need. That was the whole goal of taking the 200 amps out of the box, and it's generator integrated for off-grid, just landed on the grid port.
And it'll clean up the power too. Let's say we're doing a really low cost install, so somebody's using like a portable gasoline generator. You're saying they can send that to the grid input here. The FlexBoss will clean that power up before it goes to the appliances?
Yeah, it will, and you know, there's an unlimited depth of bad generators in the $700 range.
Yeah.
And actually, we love those. We invented the ChargeVerter, which is a 5,000 watt direct converter to direct current. So we have every solution for every generator. So that's where we were like, okay, if it's a cleaner generator, you know, that's like even in the $1,000 to $2,000 range, use the grid input and you're good. And then if you're really going hardware store level prices, grab a ChargeVerter. They're under $500 and it'll clean up any generator.
Got it. And by the way, folks, what we're talking about here, this is a little teaching opportunity. What we're talking about here is that, you know, depending on the quality of your generator, you could have fluctuations in the voltage range, you could have fluctuations in the frequency. This is what's called dirty power, right?
Yes.
Basically, we call this dirty power when those voltages and frequencies are not within the tight range, like what we have on the electric grid. And so if you send that kind of electricity into your house, you could damage sensitive electronics.
Let's just say you will.
Yeah, with enough time,
it.
yes. With enough time, you will damage sensitive electronics. Things like microwaves, audio, video equipment, laser printers. A lot of these things are very sensitive to dirty power. And so by having this ability to kind of clean up power from, let's say, a gasoline generator input, if that gasoline generator misfires and the voltage coming off of it is dirty or it's out of range, again, long term, that could damage the appliances in your house. So that's what we're talking about here.
And that goes back to one of our core strategies here is we don't want people overspending on generators. We want people to use a cheap generator and have a 1% backup and invest the rest of their money in batteries and panels that they need to actually have a better off-grid system. So I don't like the situations where people are spending $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 on a fancy generator because of the cleanliness problem. Spend $500 on a ChargeVerter, or get in that mid-range and let our inverter clean it up. But our job is to figure out how to make your cheap generator work with us instead of you having to overspend on the generator when you should be buying more batteries or more panels.
Things are going to pay you back.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Then you wouldn't use the generator anyway. So it's a catch-22 for sure.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm all for redundancy. I think having the generator option, it makes sense to have the option. How frequently you use that option, up to you. But at least this gives you some more redundancy.
Absolutely.
So James, anything else that the audience should know about the FlexBoss 21?
Well, we are native integrated with Tigo, so we have a rapid shutdown device inside of it, but we also have a direct connection with the CCA Cloud Connect kit, and our app can show, if you use optimizers from Tigo, our app can actually show the whole map of panel production in the EG4 app. So that's another thing that we put into this that we're really excited about. We got the #1 optimizer brand. You know, they've been in the business a long time. They've learned the lessons. They're just the highest quality DC solution out there, and we're good partners with them. And I think that there'll be more on that relationship coming. But that's something that's already today. If you're going to use a DC system and not pay for microinverters, you're going to have the greatest experience with our inverter.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, James, so we're looking at the GridBoss. Tell us, what does the GridBoss do if you wanted to add this or you wanted to make an off-grid system more grid interactive?
Oh, absolutely. So the GridBoss, again, was moving our 200 amp box out of the FlexBoss so we can make the FlexBoss more powerful and lower cost for our customers.
Okay.
So for off-grid customers. And then we took that $2,000 that everyone was spending at the hardware store on all the safety devices, and we put it in the GridBoss. And so it actually, it solves the interconnection aspect of if you're connecting to the grid, and then it solves a lot of other problems. So the GridBoss is out to solve is, I think, about 5 or 6 core issues, and then of course the 7th issue of the integration with the grid. So on the top of it, if I open the door here, Joe, we have 4 smart ports, and these, by the way, are directly integrated to the EG4 app. So there's no kind of bridging or additional integrations you have to do, like with some other like compatibility partners. This is our smart grid solution. We have a 125, a 80, a 60, and a 60, and these are triggered by whether or not solar's on, battery state of charge, inverter wattage, so we can also protect in case you've got a load that might trip the total power of your inverter. It can actually help you get through a situation where maybe you have occasional shedding. I like to tell people if their inverter's borderline on size, put your if you have a tank water heater, put that as one of the load shedders. So that way when the wattage gets super high, it just kind of interrupts power for a few minutes while that peak's happening. So there's that option. Or we have backup situations on the load shed side. I think you've watched in the solar industry, everyone started running to batteries. And a lot of those EPCs are just coming to the realization that when they add batteries, they're taking responsibility not just for cutting the power bill, but for actually backing up these families.
Backing up the home, yeah.
And what happens there is that they'll come in and design a system without load shedding, and they'll tell the customer, oh, you have to cut this load or this load in a backup situation to manage it. And the customers don't remember those commitments. The customers aren't doing it at 2 in the morning, and so now it's creating a huge number of truck rolls if you're not load shedding. So we saw it as an issue, and so we were like, we're just going to build that in as part of the money, as part of what you're getting. So we fixed the microgrid aspect of transfer switches and everything, but we threw in 4 circuit breaker solutions with control that I think is like competitively about $2,000 problem we solved right there, adding value on the stack. What it also is the parallel location for the inverters. And this is the other problem with hybrid inverters. You have to buy an input breaker panel, an output breaker panel, and a bunch of 100 amp breakers to add multiple inverters. And the GridBoss solves that problem. You can add up to 63 kilowatts of solar or 48 kilowatts of AC on the same box without paying for a single input or output breaker panel. So I think on a 2 inverter system, compared to the old design, that's $1,000 of savings, adding a second inverter. So it's a parallel hub. It also is the input-output manager for the house. And so all these inverters used to have a sending wire from the grid and a return wire to the house.
Right.
If you use a 200 amp inverter, for every foot you move away from the meter, Joe, this might be surprising, it's $60 a foot to run 3-aught wire from
Just
the
meter
to the inverter and back to the meter. Well, remember how we've got this device set up with a single wire connection at 6 gauge or 4 gauge, so maximum you're spending $6 a foot instead of $60 to move your batteries wherever you want to put them as a homeowner or as an installer serving your client. I've got people who want the stuff 50 feet away from the meter, 100 feet away from the meter. Like that adds up to $6,000, $7,000 of wiring. People can't afford that. So this solves that problem in a way that, I think some of the other hub inverters did. We brought that solution out on the hybrid side.
What are some of the other functions that the GridBoss supports here? I see a bypass.
The manual bypass, that changes your 200 amp transfer switch is built into this solution. And it also has the generator integration built on here. So you can add in a separate generator directly into here. You can load shed here, and you can also AC couple. So you can do all 3 at once. So whatever the customer needs, whatever you're looking for as a homeowner, this is a solution for everything. It also allowed us to get a fully automatic dark start feature, which we're going to do all the training for this coming month. And that is, you put the whole house management here. But if you have just a 100% AC coupled customer who already has a solar system, they run into a dark start problem where whenever they're in backup mode, they could run their batteries so low that the backup inverter has to turn off. And in that case, nothing's powering the AC couple inverter, and you're in this trap where your customer has to manually turn the thing back on. So if you go ask a lot of hybrid inverter companies, that's what they're sticking customers with. Maybe like an automatic reboot with the reserve capacity at some point. Well, this allowed us to segregate the two functions, and so we are able to land up to 20 kilowatts of AC coupling directly onto the FlexBoss and shed the house in a backup situation. So when we hit, let's just say that you have a house of a cutoff at 10% battery state of charge, we will shed the house but continue to power the grid tie inverter 24/7. So the grid tie inverter will wake up the next morning, recharge the batteries, bulk them back up to 20% or whatever your cut-in state of charge is. The house will regain power sustainably without the customer having to intervene. So we solved that retrofit aspect as well. I think that's about it, Joe, but it was a lot.
That is a lot, and you're a wealth of knowledge on this. I think there's a teaching opportunity here when we talk about this issue of black start. So what James is talking about here is, if you're going to connect a system like this in an AC coupled configuration, meaning, let's say you've got microinverters on your solar panels, but you want to be able to take that power in to recharge your battery after your battery's been depleted, you have to hold a little bit of the battery energy in reserve just to keep the inverter on, so that the inverter can send some voltage to the microinverters to wake them up to start sending power in. If everything shuts down completely, the microinverters thinks the grid's down, so they shut down completely too, and everything's off, where you could have sunlight that you want to come in. So what the system does, if I'm understanding you correctly, James, is it'll turn the loads in the house off so they don't completely drain out the battery.
Yes.
But it'll keep the inverter itself on, so the inverter can wake up the AC solar.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And so that segregation allows that to happen. And then, like the reality in the market is we had a good 6-year window where everyone was installing, optimized, solar edges and microinverters like Enphase. And you want to just add a battery system versus totally just restructuring those to direct current.
Right.
So this works well with that hardware. And you're right. I think, again, there are a lot of battery systems going in today that'll work when they turn them on, but people aren't thinking about the long-term failure case scenarios that are going to drive truck rolls for the contractor. And dark start is a huge truck roll driver, because you can try to educate your customer about how to manually reboot the system in the dark start situation, but they're going to forget about it, and they ultimately, the responsibility rests on you, the contractor, to give them backup. That's what they feel like they paid for.
Absolutely.
So our hardware lets you do that.
Absolutely. All right, for the contractors, for the installers out there, I know they're going to want to look underneath the hood here. So let's see, what's behind the panel?
We've got one right over there. Let's go have a look.
Okay, James, so now we've got the cover off here. Walk us through the connection points here on the GridBoss.
Absolutely. So we've got the grid input right here. We got 4-aught lugs. We've got the breaker ports for the hybrid inverters and the smart ports. And these are going to be able to use just standard BR Eaton breakers you can pick up at the wire store. So we've got our certification. We've got those additionally listed. We were shipping breakers with the unit, but I think we're going to ship this where you can kind of pick your own breakers and just buy a BR at the wire store. We've got a generator input that's going to come with I think you'll be able to put whatever breaker up to 125 amps on it. The inverter breaker, we have 2 sizes of inverters, the FlexBoss 21 and the FlexBoss 18. So you'll use one type of breaker, about a 60 amp for the FlexBoss 18, and about a 90 amp, 75 amp for the FlexBoss 21. And of course, these two 200 amp UL breakers create an interlock with the plate on the front, so that's your bypass.
Okay.
We also have a 200 amp pass-through right here, which is for the non-backed up loads. So we're able to not only back up a 200 amp panel in a house, but we can actually run a second panel through this feeder tap that is not backed up. So you could actually handle a good amount of power even on a 2-breaker panel house.
Great. Well, James, anything else that installers should know about how to wire up the GridBoss?
Not really. I mean, it's an open. We're always really generous with our wire box spaces, so we believe you have more than enough room to fit all the wires here, and you can run your controllers at this location. There's a basic communication card here, and you'll just need to run a communications line between the inverter and the GridBoss. It's going to need. We recommend shielded cable. Don't try to save money on Cat 5. That's just the baseline. Get the shielded cable. It's 15 cents a foot more. And you can run that in the pipe with your wire. when you're doing that. So other than that, just think about, I can't stress enough on the smart load ports. If your company's selling backup, take the extra 30 minutes, get a load plan with the customer, or bring a clamp meter to the site and watch their energy usage, and pick the loads that are actually a risk and put them on the smart loads before you leave. So that way, if there's a backup situation that they need to be able to succeed at better, you've got enough power from your home office as an EPC to help that customer out without rolling a truck and actually do it in an automatic way.
Great. Great. Well, James, I can tell you just the language that you're using, that you spend a lot of time talking to installers and really understanding what are some of the real practical challenges that you face in the field.
Yes.
Because you're right, especially for these battery systems, all the little balance of system costs, they can be massive with a battery system compared to just a traditional grid-tied solar. And it seems like you've listened to a lot of that feedback, engineered a lot of the solutions to those issues into the GridBoss here, so that basically they don't have to worry about their own auxiliary disconnecting means and bypass means and all this other stuff that you don't really think about when you're marketing the product, but the contractors and electricians have to deal with that stuff when they get where the boots meet the ground.
And that's our mantra at EG4. Product people have got to start becoming project people. They've got to start thinking about designing the job, not just designing the product. So it's not good enough if you're not controlling the labor risks to the customer long-term and short-term when you're installing, and if you're not controlling their exposure at the wire store with how much they have to pay for all these mandated devices.
Yep, absolutely. We're looking at the new EG4 FlexBoss 18.
Yeah, so this is a FlexBoss inverter series. We have a 21, which is the most powerful hybrid inverter on the market. It's 48 volts, and we had a lot of customers who wanted just a more entry-level size. This is actually very popular in the islands, and some of the smaller off-grid setups. So this is about $700 cheaper than the FlexBoss 21. Again, we're making it in our Commerce, Texas factory as we're speaking, and the unit is called a FlexBoss 18 because it can handle 18 kilowatts of solar input. Of course, the nameplate can be higher, but that's the utilizable 18. Okay. It outputs 13 kilowatts AC when the sun is present, up to 13. It pulls 10 kilowatts from the batteries, charges the batteries up to 10 kilowatts at a time. And again, it's just at a lower cost point, lower entry level for these installation-based systems. You can parallel. Some people are going to also find that there may be a larger installation where 2 18s is the way they need to go versus 121. So it's fully compatible with the GridBoss system. And also with the GridBoss system, you'll find that you can mix different sizes. So we can mix a FlexBoss 18 and a FlexBoss 21. So we thought this was a really important building block. It's a clear price point that we could reduce to the customer in that $3,500 retail range. Installers are buying for less, of course. And it allows us to do the one battery systems, still significantly competitive with even Tesla.
Interesting. Okay. Now, for those who are new to the product, can you kind of walk us, what are the basic functions that the hybrid inverter does?
Yeah, I mean, check it out. Looks real familiar with the 21. It's got a grid input and a load output. It doesn't have a dedicated generator input because if you're using it off grid, you just use the generator in the grid port. It's got much better power to clean up that generator sine wave anyway and protect your electronics. If you're using it in your house, with a grid connection, you're going to hook the generator up to the GridBoss, so that's covered. It has an optional touchscreen. It's about $100 more that you plug in if you want to use it. If you want that feature, obviously you can full control the inverter on the app and the web portal. So if you're an EPC deploying a lot of these systems everywhere, you might not want to put a screen as a point of failure. But for the homeowner who likes that or off-grid system size, we're ready for those applications as well. It's got a battery input, battery breaker.
And it says 48 volt nominal battery, right?
Yes, and one thing about it is it's also CRD PCS certified, so you can land either the FlexBoss 18 or the FlexBoss 21 on someone's breaker panel without having to do a panel upgrade. We just put the CTs on that breaker panel, and it will make sure that you never over amperage the bus. So that's a UL that was designed to save everybody a lot of money on installation.
Excellent. Now, I know we have it here sort of depicted with the EG4 Power Pro battery. Yeah. What other batteries would this inverter be compatible with?
So we're compatible with a few other ones. There's a stackable battery system that I think that also Outback Power is working on with us. It'll be a good option for the smaller modules. And we're also, I think there's actually some overlap on the other guys in terms of like Force versus the other guy, the other stuff they'll talk. But I think the other thing that to remember, this is why we do batteries and inverters, is to get a full UL 9540, you really need to integrate with that, and it's a big investment. So for us, we're only paying for the 9540s for the batteries that we build, so that we can cost control the system and quality control the system. Remember, the EG4 battery integrated with these inverters allows you to monitor the battery itself and every cell and update the firmware. So staying in the EG4 ecosystem is our core target, but if somebody already has a particular battery, we can communicate with about 12 different ones out there.
Now, for those that might not be familiar with the terminology we're talking about here, the UL listing you reference is basically you have to have a battery inverter combination certified for use on the grid. You can't just mix and match any battery you want the way you used to be able to. Can you just explain a little bit more?
It's like a $100,000 process, and we basically send some inverters and a bunch of batteries to a test lab, and they try to set them on fire together. And it's a crazy test. Like they literally drill in and like put a propane flame inside the thing, trying to catch it on fire. That 9540 test, that's a cost burden on the hardware. So our objective is to get you a great battery and get it as low cost as possible. So not paying for millions in certifications helps us keep your costs low.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
We've got 2 battery SKUs, and that's it.
Makes sense. Okay, so you got your battery disconnect here, your grid input, your load output.
Yes.
Anything noteworthy on the solar side? Can you kind of walk through the specs? What's the acceptable solar input for this?
Yeah. So the solar input, it's a double 25 amp input. So you can do up to 4 strings, 2 in parallel on each input. So you won't need a combiner box. You won't need fuses, which are points of failure. And like I say, it'll handle about 18 kilowatts of usable. So you could probably run 21 kilowatts nameplate or something into the inverter, no problem. It has an RSD communicator, and again, also it's tied into our Tigo Cloud Connect integration, where you can see the production of the Tigo optimizers if you use those kind of systems for shade management and save the money compared to microinverters and drive efficiency up. You can see that as well. So we have that integration built into the inverters ready for the Cloud Connect CAT.
Great, great. Well, as most of the viewers know that are familiar with your brand, EG4 is always considered to be a very cost competitive brand. So what does a unit like this cost?
Yeah, retail $3,500, and then the installers are closer to $3,000.
Great.
So really good option for a start. And a lot of homes, now that we've really amped this up from our 12 kPV, a lot of homes, this is big enough for them. And again, you can mix and match the sizes now.
Right, right. Well, James, anything else the audience should know about the FlexBoss 18?
Well, just like the FlexBoss 21, we're going to run through the same EMP hardening tests and finalization, and we're going to show a certified inverter with EMP hardening for free, just like we did on the 18K and the 12 kPV series.
Very cool, very cool. So James, we're in Southern California now, and it seems everything, particularly in California, but everything now is going towards batteries with solar.
Yes.
Solar plus storage. So tell us about the EG4 Power Pro battery.
Yeah, the EG4 Power Pro battery. It's full capacity, 14.3 kilowatt hour module. Very common size in the industry. With a lot of folks going a little higher, and we probably will too. But it's a DC only battery. We're really committed to keeping the cost of kilowatt hour expansion, of additional storage expansion for systems that need that on day one or want to be able to upgrade in the future if they buy like an EV or something else that they need to manage the time for. We're really committed to keeping that cost just centralized on just the battery. So the thing that's really unique about it in the market is there's really not that many players that have even considered a DC only solution. So it's a 10-year warranty battery. It's got over 8,000 cycles on it. It should last towards 20 years. I think everything inside of it is IP65 rated. And it's the base module that drives our off-grid system value. So people can install, without a more complex busing system, they can install about 5 units, which is almost 75 kilowatt hours on the side of their house with just a basic battery and our conduit box system.
Okay. And so are these designed to wall mount, or do they have to support them on the ground? Or?
They're designed to wall mount. They are set up with some feet on the ground to where you can do that as well. But most people are wall mounting them, and Then we've got a bracketing and conduit box system that allows you to tie in our inverter system completely seamlessly, so you don't have to drive to the wire store to do anything special. We're completely integrated manufacturer, so our inverter looks like it grew on the battery and vice versa, and our conduit box system kind of creates that easy install where you've got a one-stop solution.
That's great. I'm going to have some more questions for you about the conduit box, but let's talk about the battery first. So you said 14 kilowatt hours of storage?
Yes, a little 14, yes.
Okay, so for most homes, I think most homes are probably going to want 2 batteries for a whole house backup, or at least
yes.
If I were designing, I would recommend go with 2 batteries for an average size home. What kind of cost would you be looking at for that?
Well, the single battery module is about, for installer price, is about $3,000 to give or take a little bit, but the retail is about $3,600. And so 2 batteries, $6,000, Joe. And that's an incredible price point in the industry for 30 kilowatt hours. And to your point, I'm typically seeing 2 multiples in terms of battery sizing for a really properly designed system. About 2.5 kilowatt hours of battery storage per kilowatt of solar, or about 60% of your daytime usage you need to have as a battery bank. So those 2 checks and balances, if you're getting quoted less kilowatt hours, then you're not really getting quoted power independence.
Yep. Now let's talk about operating conditions. This is outdoor rated, correct?
Yes, the IP65, waterproof, ready to go.
Okay, in terms of temperature range, what's sort of the healthy temperature range where you could use
So we can operate down to -20. It has heating pads inside of it. Of course, those will drive self-discharge. So think about that accordingly. If you get cold snaps 2 or 3 weeks out of the year, put it wherever you want. But if you have like months-long cold periods under 32, then think about putting it in a medium controlled zone like a garage or a shop.
Makes sense. And of course, this is 48 volt nominal, right?
Yeah, 48 volt nominal. As lithium's like 51.2, but yeah, 48.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the conduit box then. So how does this help if you're going to interface the battery to, let's say, the FlexBoss inverter here?
Well, yeah, actually this came from like our first tour on the job site with our original inverters. Everybody was going to the wire store to buy a chase, which is like hundreds of dollars, and then having to drill out of the hole. So we said that's got to stop. So the conduit box is designed for a perfect pattern match to the bottom of the inverter and a perfect pattern match to the top of the battery. So the conduit box just puts it all together. We try to keep this price super honest. I think like the individual piece is under $100. It saves you at least an hour of your time drilling out and customizing it. And I think you get $150 of soft costs there. So makes the system easier for electricians and do-it-yourselfers. Nobody has to kind of self-fabricate on the site. I mean,
now what if we're going to connect multiple batteries though?
So we've actually, the standard single conduit box has a bolt pattern that allows you to just use a 2-inch conduit to connect multiple single packs, and a lot of guys just do that. But we wanted people were wanting some more elegant solutions for a standard 2 battery system. So we've got a couple other solutions in the mix at this show. The 2 battery wide solution, which is, I think this system looks really nice compared to if it was 2 boxes with a pipe. And it's a single piece that's actually less than double the cost of the 2 individual boxes. So, I'm a cost shark, so that's exciting to me. And then we also have a solution that's focused on wall space that's actually double deep on the other side of this booth.
Okay, let's take a look at that.
It's right around here, Joe.
Okay, James, so what are we looking at here with this tandem configuration?
Yeah, the double deep box. We open it up, same kind of door configuration, but it's got holes here for 2 batteries. We've got a mounting bracket that extends out to hold the second battery. The one thing that's incorrect on this is our first time we displayed it. We've got an extended mounting bracket for the inverter. And as you can see, these punch outs and the set screws, the inverter just plants onto that and set screws onto it. So we'll have that mounting bracket out here holding the inverter, and it'll look like a continuous unit. So just like the single deep ones. And again, I think this will actually be even better cost than the double wide. The double deep is just less material and easier for us to make.
James, is there a limit to how many Power Pro batteries you can connect to a single inverter?
Well, actually, we've had people do 64 batteries in a system, but after about 5 batteries, after the 75 kilowatt hour range on a single inverter, you have to use a busing system. If you're using multiple inverters, you can actually go beyond that and basically have different clusters as long as you spread the inverters out among the 2 different clusters of batteries. We also are the first hybrid inverter company to have AC paralleling of the battery. So you could actually have a battery bank in one location, let's just say in your garage, and another one, let's just say in a shop behind your house, and those two battery banks can parallel via AC power on the GridBoss. So they will allocate the demand the house uses to whichever battery bank has a state of charge. It's a really exciting opportunity there as well.
Great, great. Well, James, anything else that the audience should know about the Power Pro battery?
It is the most solid foundation for you to be able to afford energy independence. Kilowatt hours is the game. Don't let anyone tell you different. And EG4's platform is just focused on you getting a lot more raw energy storage for your money. More is more. And this platform is something that really delivers that.
So James, I know one of the challenges that installers are dealing with is as these battery sizes get larger, the batteries are physically getting larger and heavier. So what are some of the things that you've done to help installers manage that complexity on site?
Well, Joe, a lot. Weight's a key aspect of installing these units. But the 300-pound battery is essential to getting the best value per kilowatt hour, which is what our customers are looking for. So each battery has a lift rope in the back. I don't think I can pull one out here, but there's actually a lift rope to hold it and side handles. So a two-man lift approach. But we have guys that they're having code restrictions where they'd like to get them 3 feet off the ground. And they want to try to do one-man install. So what we did was we created a lift dolly with a drill power. There's a lot of people doing that in the heavy battery space. Shockingly, they're not willing to share their homework, so we had to make our own dolly. It's a well-designed, sturdy unit that can lift easily multiple times the weight of the battery. And you just use a 1/2-inch drill, run it, and we'll show some install videos, I think, at some point of just how this all works out. We can't really show in the show environment, but we'd love to share that as well. But we think this is another tool in the toolbox. The lift rope's a great tool. Some people have lift equipment on their farm, et cetera. They're using that, or just a lot of different options there. And of course, the Boss Box doesn't have the lift problem. So we're going after the lift problem as hard as we can. Obviously, the dolly that we're rolling out with in the next month is going to be really exciting for that. So
great, great. We're looking at the EG4 Indoor Power Pro battery. So James, I've seen a lot of batteries at the show this week,
yes.
Right? Battery storage is the thing, right?
Yes.
Especially here in California. If you're doing solar, you're pretty much doing solar with battery storage every time now.
Yes.
Tell us about EG4's battery. I know you guys have a reputation of always having a very cost-competitive, great value battery.
Yeah.
How does the indoor battery differ from the Power Pro that we looked at earlier?
Well, they're both Power Pro batteries, so it's the indoor model. It's just an indoor case with still heated. Same lifespan, same cells, same controls, exact same components, but we realized that we could deliver a $300 less price point for people with the indoor version. And we thought, there are so many people that are going to buy 2, 3, 4 batteries, and that's somewhere between $600 to $1,200 of cost savings for a case they don't need if they're putting it inside. So it was just another thing we could do to drive up affordability for homeowners and profitability for installers. So this is actually, it may be surprising, but we literally, and probably because of our big position in off-grid as well with the XP series inverters, we literally sell more of these indoor wall mounts than the outdoors, just slightly. Because a lot of EPCs are like, if I'm going to put 3 batteries in a garage, why am I going to waste $900? That's real money, and I'll help my customer afford more. So again, exact same core components, focusing on delivery method, focusing on project cost. So that's what this is. Anybody who stocks our outdoor will stock our indoor, and if you're doing something inside, go ahead and save some money.
So, but you're not sacrificing anything capacity-wise. So you're still at what, 14 kilowatt hours?
14.3 kilowatt hours. There is nothing inside of this that is different than the outdoor battery. It is literally the same thing. We just realized you don't need a fancy case when you're going indoors, so let's give you the option of choosing what you want and only spending the money that you're looking for.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And I know you're very cost conscious, and I think you all are very much committed to making sure that there's great value options out there for consumers and for installers as well. You talk about scalable or the scaled cost per kilowatt hour of the installation. So let's say for a 3 battery system, by using the indoor battery versus the outdoor, you're saving
about $900. It's $300 a piece. So $900 is real money, and we wanted to drive our innovation there. And I think it's another example of how we actually, people ask us, how are you cheaper? Well, we really just think about the application. And for here, it's clear what I did. I didn't change a single thing from my Power Pro battery. I just gave you the case you actually needed versus the the extra one you don't need outside. So we're very open and transparent about that stuff. And I do think there are cost down opportunities in this industry if you really pay attention to who the end user is and what their project looks like. Project Focus is going to help us make solar more affordable for everybody, Joe.
Yeah, and it's clear talking to you, James, that you spend a lot of time talking to installers that are having to deal with this hands-on in the field and what they have to deal with. We're not just selling the specs on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
In addition to the cost savings, are we losing any weight with the indoor model?
Yeah, about 15 pounds. So
15 pounds,
you
okay.
know, most people's backs are happy about that.
Yeah, that adds up too.
That's true. And to your point, you know, we're out in the field all the time. EG4 has an installer support team that literally goes out and helps on the first 2 to 3 jobs and gets your installer to a 1-day installation efficiency. So we support our channel, and the back end of that is I go have beers with all those guys. I listen to everything that's going on. I go to their job sites sometimes, and I start thinking about how we can cut costs in the future by really keeping the project in focus.
That's great. It really has come through talking to you today. You know, because again, James, I think a lot of folks really need to look at this as it's a partnership between the equipment manufacturer and the installers that are going to be offering it. And I know in the past, EG4 has had a kind of a reputation more of an off-grid brand, but I think now we're seeing more and more of the higher production solar installers, you know, offer the EG4 solution as a professionally installed solution that they're willing to back with a warranty.
Yeah, I think that just comes down to EG4's core story. Power independence is our DNA. We're really passionate about everybody being able to become power independent, and our job is to innovate and make that possible. And then I just think our origin, you know, myself running an installation company for 5 years, and then a family member taking that over and continuing to run it today. You know, there's very few hardware companies today that were founded by installers like EG4. Instead, they're focused on engineering. And again, there's so much money on the table when you actually understand your project and who's going to install it. And then you can absolutely support people much easier.
Great. Well, James, anything else the audience should know about the Power Pro indoor version?
Really nothing. It's just, if you know anything about the outdoor version, it's just a way to save money on the indoor on an indoor install. Yep. And it's just an example of our commitment to you guys, making everybody afford solar, getting more people to say yes on doing a solar install.
Great. So $300 cheaper, 15 pounds lighter, same 48 volt lithium iron phosphate, 14 kilowatt hour, slightly higher than 14 kilowatt hour capacity battery. All right, so tell us all about Boss Box. What is this? It's massive.
Yeah, so again, projects versus products. We really are focused on designing projects. And the Boss Box is an application where we're taking the same core products we've been talking about, the Power Pro battery, which is heated, outdoor rated, and with all the quick connect bus bars. And we're mounting an inverter on the outside and placing it on a metal skid that can also bolt to a concrete pad. And so what we're trying to do here with, I think, a less than $2,000 solution is put the project in a box where we can actually pre-commission it for you and get full UL certification on this dense of, you know, up to 48 kilowatt hours in a single box, which is going to cover, again, 95% of homes. I mean, that's a 2,500 kilowatt hour a month power bill that you can offset with self-consumption, not to mention peak shaving or VPP programs. So also, we've got off-grid deployments where people are just new to off-grid, they're a little uncomfortable with it. We can put their whole project in a box and they can just, it'll already be ready to go. And so they can just put it wherever they need to go. We've got homes that really don't have room for, you know, 1,000 pounds, 2,000 pounds of batteries and gear on the wall. There are, or just aesthetics look issues. So we said, look, let's build a solution that, you know, is about the size of what people expect for a whole home backup generator, and have it just run a single wire between the inverter and the GridBoss, which is very much the same format that classical electricians are used to on this. So one of these angles is to get more classic electricians into solar and storage, which will help with soft costs, help installers scale their business. The other one is some of these project, you know, do-it-yourselfers and off-grid guys that kind of just get their own work done and hire an electrician. This just simplifies the whole exposure, and you're going to be able to have this delivered to a job site, offloaded on a skid, and put in place. So just all of the tactical soft costs of just getting a job done, putting all this on a house, we think this may be a great solution for a lot of people's business models, homeowners, and projects.
Great. All right, so let's walk through this piece by piece for folks that are not familiar with this. So weatherproof enclosure.
Yeah, weatherproof enclosure, NEMA 4X.
NEMA 4X. Okay, outdoor rated. Each battery is a 14 kilowatt hour.
14.3 kilowatt hours now, and they are IP65 and heated.
And heated. All right, let's talk more about the heating. So what operating temperature range could this solution serve?
You know, we can keep the battery warm down to -20. It's still something that you should probably take into consideration when you're locating it, because of, you know, heating a battery is not free, right? You are self-discharging the battery.
Yeah,
so
it takes energy.
if you have occasional cold snaps and you want to put it in a place that might have trouble for, you know, a week out of the year, that's a great solution. Most places in America have that aspect, but if you're reliably in northern Idaho and you've got, you know, 3 months under 32, you might want to think about putting this, you know, in a medium climate controlled zone. So whether garage, shop, etc. But we think that, you know, for probably a good 70% of the country, it's a great just standalone, put it outdoors and let the heater do the work on the necessary days.
Makes sense. Now the batteries are wired at 48 volts nominal?
Yes. 48 volt nominal bus. There's a quick connect parallel cables between these that are already pre-made. So we have a 4 quick connect bus bar, and you go between the batteries on that. And of course, you can take off power for the inverter from some of the quick connects as well. So it's a really easy setup. When you buy the Boss Box, you're going to be able to buy it in 2 ways. We'll sell you the empty cabinet, and we'll sell you the fully loaded cabinet with a commissioning service included, where once you set it and use a cellular modem that we can offer, then we'll have somebody at EG4 actually do the commissioning for you, optimize to your power company, or be right there as basically a virtual assistant that gets you out of the complexity of a solar project.
So what are some of the different configurations that are available if someone wanted to purchase it pre-assembled by EG4?
Yeah, I think we're going to do a 2 battery configuration and a 3 battery configuration. I think we're going to have a stretch opportunity out here to put a 4th battery on the unit. So it'll be somewhere between 30 and 60 kilowatt hours. And again, that's almost everybody.
Okay.
If you're doing a single battery, you'll probably just use a house mount solution. But this is for, you know, those folks that are trying to figure out, where am I going to put all these batteries to really be power independent? Because if you're not getting enough kilowatt hours, you know, it's a gimmick. And this puts the right solution in a box and makes it simple.
All right, now I'd like to learn more about the inverter component. Okay, James, so tell us more about the inverter that's connected up to the Boss Box.
Well, you're going to have an option for either the smaller FlexBoss 18 or the FlexBoss 21. I think initially we're going to focus just on the FlexBoss 21 because this is a 2 or more battery solution.
Okay, so James, let's say if we're using that larger configuration,
Yeah.
what can the customer expect out of this?
Well, I think we're going to standard ship this with a FlexBoss 21. We'll look first to see if people are looking for a FlexBoss 18 smaller inverter. But again, this solution is focused on energy independence homeowners that want the big inverter. So we'll have that inverter mounted here. It's actually the same size as the 18. They're just different internals. And we'll have the pre-commissioned options with wire coming out already connected to the inverter, where basically the inverter is live with the power switch off, but ready to go at the point of commissioning. And it's a place to put the inverter. It's a complete solution. Like I say, if you're buying this for off-grid, you'll just run your AC power cable to the unit and run it to your off-grid breaker panel. So you want to have an off-grid house, buy a Boss Box, hook this up to your breaker panel.
And all of this is fully outdoor rated, right?
Absolutely. Or if you want to do a hybrid house, buy this box, hook up the GridBoss to your main meter collar, your meter, and run a single run of number 6 and number 4 wire between them.
Great. So what are some typical applications you would see for a setup like this, what we're looking at here?
You know, I think that you've got people who are looking for an energy independence package off grid. They're running a generator. They're trying to invest in a solution for just a no compromises off grid lifestyle. Just buy the box and don't become an expert, and get an expert to help. I think you're also looking at a lot of development opportunities where you have contractors that have trouble putting a battery system. They don't have just a great place on the house to do it, so they're better off with the box. And I think also you're going to see home developers start shipping these solutions with, you know, thousands of homes that are being built, so they can keep their existing electrician doing it. And they've got a spot that just fits that well.
So James, is there anything else that the audience should know about the Boss Box?
Well, I mean, we designed it to mount to a lot of different things. We palletized it so you can move it around and get it delivered to the right space on the job site. I think a lot of guys are going to use like all-weather, all-terrain pallet jacks or et cetera, and just get it in the right place. It has some really heavy bolt brackets on here to go onto a concrete pad or concrete posts or whatever else is out there for it. So a lot of options there. You got a great base, and again, it takes your power independence needs and gets it in a nice box, and you can put it wherever you want.
Great. Well, folks, this has been a brief walkthrough on the EG4 Boss Box. Again, I know you all have been asking for us to do more EG4 content. We're going to have a lot more of that coming out for you this year. Of course, this has been a chat with James Showalter. He's the CEO and founder at EG4. By the way, if you're getting good value from these videos that you see on Solar Surge, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Also, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. That way, as we have new videos like this coming out, it'll come up on your feed, and that way you can stay up to date with everything. But that pretty much does it for today's video. James, thanks for spending some more time with us.
Thank you, Joe.
And as always, I'm Joe Ordia here, encouraging you to get prepared and be empowered. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.